those farmers, right? Those farmers. I'll be back. So, I've said this before, right? These farmers, a lot of these white rural voters, again, read that book, White Rural Range, that I've been sharing. They're white supremacist rage, meaning they're this constant, seemingly irresistible urge to vote to harm black and brown folks is, frankly, I hate to say it, it's part of their culture. It's part of their culture. It's their culture. And if it's one thing humans tend to do, humans follow culture automatically. They do it without thinking. To get a human being to operate, to go contrary to their culture, is going to be nigh impossible unless something extremely traumatic happens. Of course, the obligatory, not all these white people that live amongst that culture or who are cultured that way tend to make the political choices that they do. But a huge majority of those white people that live the way they do. And they, frankly, this is part of who they are. They literally do not know of any other way to be. They believe what they believe, and it's part of their culture. And they do not know of any other way to be. Asking them to stop and think about their economic well-being, to vote differently, is, they look at you like, what are you talking about?
Well, I couldn't. When I was here last week, I was asking Peter.
And unfortunately, it's part of these folks' culture, right, is, frankly, white supremacy. It's what I call a product of white supremacy. It's one of those different ways white supremacy shows itself or makes itself felt. This is, their culture is that white supremacist infueled. So it's inseparable from how they see themselves, from who they think they are. And the messed up thing about it is, there's some very caustic and very violent tendency, but it's part of who they are. And inherent in white supremacy is the entitled, expected demand for that quote-unquote white wage. Sometimes that white wage is not an actual literal check, but it's a sense of well-being, a sense of quote-unquote justice has been served, a sense that democracy has been preserved, which is why a lot of them voted last thing. They felt democracy was under threat because, frankly, as part of their white supremacist culture, all these darkies, these black and brown Negra types, were doing too much, too uppity, wokeness, critical race theory, and all those other boogeymen, and these invading hordes of black and brown. They're doing too much. So there was that. They got that wage. But sometimes the wages of this white supremacy are literal wages, literal wealth, literal property. Like they, raised Tulsa, murdered, and burned it out, and then proceeded to take all of the black folks property and wealth in as recompense, as payment, as just payment for what they did, for righting the wrongs, from from justice being done. Right? So now, these white farmers, having done their duty for yet again ensuring that justice be done, they are now looking for a way for and the part of the white wages is like, they do this, it's expected, they're being good team players, and they don't expect any repercussions, they don't expect consequences. You know what I'm saying? They don't expect any blowback. And part of the white wages is that. And now they're expecting, okay, the farm's about to go under, and they're expecting, okay, we did our duty, righting the social ship, and now it's time for you to make us whole, like you've always done. We want our white wages. We want our bailouts, Trump, like you did to us last time. And that is what this is about. And I'm sorry, folks, they are never going to change. They will do this again and again. They'll do this again and again. They will never change. They will never stop voting and believing the things they do, because it's part of their culture. It's part of who they are. It's part of their sentience. And I'm sorry, those of you folks up here, folks down there particularly, have a racist white sentience. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm letting white people off generally across the world, across the country. But some versions of white supremacy, they actually are able to, their politics and how they vote is still tied to what's, generally beneficial to them. So they won't vote that way. You know what I'm saying? Their politics is separate from what they do. So, they won't vote that way. So some white people will still vote decently, even though they may have white supremacist tendencies subconsciously, subliminally. Where they vote is not tied to that. But for these folks, these white farmers, it is exactly what it's tied to. It's tied to that. And honestly, I don't see them doing anything different. These bailouts that they're demanding is their white wages for them adhering to their white supremacist sentience, the white supremacist sense of who they are, quote unquote. And this is what has been generationally told to people who accepted the moniker of white since its inception. You do what you can to uphold whiteness, and you will be taken care of. You will maintain your perch atop everything else, perceptionally and literally, right? By force, if necessary, or by rigging the system, if necessary. And they're simply asking for what they've been promised over the generations. That's it.